I sincerely believe it is right of every farmer to be able to conserve their own seed. Community seed banks can pay excellent help towards this, because that is where you can save your seeds and get the seeds back when you are in need.
Hello, and welcome to Learning Lab. This is Ma Earth's online community where we share tools, skills, and stories in service of planetary health and regeneration. I'm Sophia Rocklin. I'm our host and our facilitator. This is our 12th Learning Lab, so if you've been with us the whole time, welcome back. And if this is your first time with us, welcome. Today, we're joined by Dr. Debarati Chakraborty from India, who I actually met through a Learning Lab alum, John Webster. We did a session on biochar. You can check that out in our Learning Lab library. And I reached out to Dr. Chakraborty because I was fascinated by what I was kind of tracking as a very unique intersection between working directly with communities, seed saving, and soil science. Dr. Chakraborty is the CEO and founder of Natrophilia India, which is a company that's been supporting communities in purchasing and acquiring different soil amendments, getting good education about their possibilities of working with different seed saving, landscaping, and soil amendment opportunities. And Dr. Chakraborty is also an educator, as you're going to see here. We're doing a session on seed memory. And we haven't explored this yet in Learning Lab, but I was thinking about Vandana Shiva, who is a mountain of a human being who has been leading Navdanya International's work, which is a coalition of 70,000 farmers across India saving seeds. And she once said in an interview that seeds are the convergence of human intelligence and nature's intelligence, and represents the ultimate expression of life in our language. A quote from her, "That from which life arises on its own forever and ever." So really centering the beauty of seeds, the importance of seeds for our bodies, the importance of seeds for our community bodies, remembering where we come from, our ancestors' stories, and also the right for seed sovereignty. You know, when we talk about food security, it really starts with seed sovereignty and remembering where seeds come from. So with that, I feel really, really excited to introduce this very unique and special human being who has been on a mission to support farmers and communities in protecting their cultural heritage by highlighting their work through scientific articulation and expression. In keeping with a new tradition, I'm going to read a brief passage from a book called Earth Prayers. And this comes from the UN's Environmental Sabbath program, and it is a kind of a prayer or an invitation for how we heal the whole. So join me in a moment of reverence before we begin this presentation. We join with the earth and with each other to bring new life to the land, to restore the waters, to refresh the air. We join with the earth and with each other to renew the forests, to care for the plants, to protect the creatures. We join with the earth and with each other to celebrate the seas, to rejoice in the sunlight, to sing the songs of the stars. We join with the earth and with each other to recreate the human community, to promote justice and peace, to remember our children. We join with the earth and with each other. We join together as many and diverse expressions of one loving mystery for the healing of the earth and the renewal of all life. Stick around for the end of this session where live participants of Learning Lab share their questions, and we have a question and answer session. And if you'd like to join us live for Learning Lab, you can do so by signing up for our Luma calendar, which you'll find in today's show notes. Without further ado, Dr. Chakraborty, thank you so much for joining us in the Learning Lab. And yeah, we'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Sophia. Thanks for the beautiful poem, first of all. And thanks to Ma Art for giving me this opportunity to share my journey with you all. So, my journey started, you can see this picture. This is somewhere my journey started with. This is me working on mangroves, which is not related to today's presentation directly. But this experience taught me the importance of field research along with lab-based research and the importance of community. So that's how I came into this whole zone. Next slide. please. So today's topic is seeds of memory, connecting seeds, soil, and culture. Um, so before coming to the main context, I will give a small brief on some of the buzzwords we get to hear every now and then. So, one of the major buzzword we get to hear is sustainability. So, what is sustainability? It is more like a mindset to use resources judiciously rather than finishing them off very quickly, leaving nothing for the next generation. It might be habitat, it might be energy, it might be raw materials, and it even might be human resources. So, to use things judiciously, mindfully connects us to sustainability. Next is climate change, which refers to the long term shift in temperature and climate regimes. Different types of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, different type of nitrous oxides, fluorinated gases all leads to the heat entrapment, which ultimately exacerbates the effects of climate change. And this leads to much bigger impacts of different type of drastic weather events, which ultimately impacts all segments of our life, including agriculture. And it impacts the entire world, not only one country or something like that. So, to address these problems, in 1992, 198 countries came together to sign what we call UNFCCC. And this is how the journey started. And then in 2000, there were 8 millennial developmental goals set up by United Nations to solve the problems related with extreme poverty, hunger, and to uplift better health, education, gender equality, as well as environmental problems. Finally, the Paris Agreement was signed in 2015, where 17 developmental goals were outlined to help us give us a blueprint of how to achieve our sustainable goals in different sectors. So, if you will look at the 17 goals, all of these are somehow interconnected. They are not isolated. And today's topic, seed memory, is directly related to number one, no poverty, zero hunger, climate action, life below water, life on land, and partnership for the goals. How? Because selling of good quality seed, ability to keep and preserve your own seeds ensures no poverty. Better seeds ensure better food, zero hunger, and good agricultural practices ensures better climate actions, which in turn ensures better life below water and life on land. And without partnerships, none of this is achievable. So that's how today's topic is connected to the SDGs. Next slide. Yeah. So seeds, we will be focusing mainly on crop seeds. So we will be focusing mainly on the agrodiversity. It is a result of interaction between environment, genetic resources, and the systems and practices developed by culturally diverse people by which they have molded their land, their water resources in different manners and have got their own set of seeds. This seeds starts from wild relative. Wild relatives are the plants from which today's uh, cultivated plants have developed. And these cultivated plants were developed through thousands of years of selections by our farmers who have developed the land races, which are the traditional varieties adopted to the local agroecological conditions, from which further uh, farmers as well as breeders, scientists have developed high potential, high genetic uniformity having varieties, which are having lower genetic diversity than the land races. So, uh, apart from that, there are improved germplasms, which are often being released by different central government labs in different countries, and as well as advanced breeding materials, which include GMOs. Next. Today's presentation is particularly focused on land races, on the traditional varieties, on the local varieties. So, these local varieties are very diverse in their genetic construction, and they are not only stress resilient, they often shows very good yields because they are locally well adapted for hundreds and thousands of years. And often these land races have shown better nutritional and sensory qualities, and they are of immense value to the people who have nurtured them. Next. So here I have given some example from Kashmir, where different type of rice husk diversity you can see, and many of these varieties which have been collected were aromatic, which are highly priced in market. Some are early maturing, some are sweet, some have bold seeds. Next. And here I have given some examples of rice varieties from Northeast India, where 232 varieties were tested for rice leaf and neck blast disease, of which 84 resistant land races were identified. And minded, this disease is a huge problem for the rice farmers of India. So imagine, already our ancestral farmers have got these varieties for us. So it is of immense importance that we must identify, we must conserve these varieties. Next. So this is from my own PhD work. My interest in land races picked up during PhD, during which I have been very fortunate to work with Dr. Debol Deb, a very famous rice conservationist who have 1,400 varieties of rice. And I have particularly worked on aromatic rices of India, and we have reported the basis of aroma, the genetic basis of aroma in those rices. Next. So one of the major problem well known in the world of biology is the problem of biopiracy. One such cases I have shown here, where the basmati patent, which is widely, claimed as something which belongs to some other country, not to India, and thankfully has been contested well by the government. And this shows how important it is to not only just conserve the folk varieties in field, but also to properly document them to ensure that this biopiracy doesn't happen. Next. So this is an example from Peru, where almost 1,200 varieties of potato were conserved in situ, where this variety you can go and see, and this is an excellent initiative. This type of initiatives should be replicated for different types of crops if we actually want to see us eating good food. Next. So this is another example from chili map of India. We have lots of chilies. One of the most famous one is Bujolakia, which is famous for its hotness. It's extremely hot. So, yeah. Next. Uh, so these are again some examples from different types of garlics and blue turmeric, which have recently become a fad because of its high antioxidant properties and is highly valued. This is like one new species of ginger identified from Simlicol Biosphere Reserve of Orissa. So the next, all this I have included just to show you a small glimpse of how diverse our land races, our traditional varieties are. Next slide. Um, so that you all can understand how important it is to ensure that this varieties gets to live on, because these varieties not only are medicinally, nutritionally important, but they are also deeply ingrained in our culture. So this is a small article which I wrote about one such ritual which we perform just in the month of October, November. When the season is changing, there is a ritual of collecting 14 greens which we use to make a dish. And this ritual we uh, perform just before Kali Puja, and it ensures basically better um adjustment to the changing environment, because this is the time of environmental change to winter season. So it ensures that you are better protected. It basically keeps you healthy. So thus our ritual had several scientific underpinnings which needs to be properly understood. Next. So why should we care about all these things? Apart from taste, apart from culture, the major reason is all these land races, all these traditional varieties have shown sometimes better content of nutrients than today's HYVs, high yielding varieties. And malnutrition is a fact all over the world. Every year, so many deaths happens because of it. So many people loses their healthy life, and this is why uh, there is so much of increase in the non-communicable diseases, including diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and depression of all things. So all these are related to the hidden hunger. We are eating, but our body is not getting the amount of nutrition it should have got. So it has been shown that land races often have better nutritional diversity, taste, flavor, whereas they are also climate resilient. Next. So these are some of the reports where scientists have shown that how there is a historical shift in the mineral density in Indian rice and wheat cultivars, which have been released after Green Revolution. And this is a data from UK where it has been shown that from 1940 to 2019, there is a huge change in the mineral content of fruit and vegetables. So it is a global concern, not only on one particular country is affected, all of us are affected. Next. So these are the reasons. I will not go into much details into this, but overall the reason is there is a historical decline in the mineral content because mainly, next slide, there is reduction of actual traditional varieties and the focus moved to high yielding varieties where the companies who have developed them, who have worked with the scientists to develop them, the main focus was on yield, much more production, much more production. But while doing that, they have mostly forgotten about what about the micronutrient content, what about their taste, what about their flavor. So there is an overall increase in the dry matter and carbohydrate, whereas there is a dilution of the actual micronutrient content. This effect is known as genetic dilution because of the loss of the genes related to such nutritional profiles. And the overall effect is called dilution effect. Next. Uh, so that paper showed some of the major reasons for this are, instead of going for agroecological methods of farming, we are relying on more and more chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, as well as we are tilling heavily. We are trying to um, increase the amount of yield while we are not trying to keep in mind that the soil is a living system. We shouldn't kill it. So these changes have affected the overall soil quality, which in turn have affected overall the yield quality. The yield might be more, but the amount of nutrition that you are getting from your food have become much less than. So this has been called as agronomic dilution effect, where the carbohydrate and dry matter have increased instead of the mineral micronutrients. Next. So the way forward should be, we should focus more on the agroecological farming instead of targeting to one single nutrient in the biofortification programs. Plant breeding should try to improve the whole basket of nutrients. And along with this, as a customer, we have great choices. We must not forget we have choice. So that choice you should use judiciously. You should connect to the farmers in your region. You should connect to the peoples in your region who are producing organic foods, who are saving indigenous seeds. If you have a piece of land, you can start producing even if a small variety. That's a step towards uh, becoming free from this whole problem. And obviously, exchange of ideas, becoming more collaborative towards each other will be very helpful. Next. So these are some other papers which have shown that extreme use of chemicals have been killing our biggest helper. The pollinator friend honeybees are getting killed, as well as sometimes they are losing their olfactory senses. Sometimes they are becoming blind. They are not being able to sense the flowers they get nectars from. So these all are happening simultaneously. These chemicals are not only killing our soil, it is basically killing our entire ecosystem along with us. Next. So this is something I'm very proud of. We recently uh, published this paper where we raised this question. We give this plea to consider the importance of flavor, taste in managing plant genetic resources. Because what we realized is in the gene banks where the information for different seeds are conserved, they are often not related to the traditional usage, the cuisine, the flavor, the associated taste, aroma with that particular seeds. And that is a huge problem because all that knowledge is lost when you are not cataloging it properly. So here, like I have shown, just from rice, we get so many different type of byproducts. So these are the byproducts very famous in India. I mean, all parts of India use this. And for each of this product, there is a different land base. So not all land base can produce equal quality of each of these products. That's the beauty of different traditional varieties, that each have its own set of benefits. Next. So these are some of the cultural rituals associated with rice cultivation. So Dhanya Lakshmi Puja is done during the season of harvest. This picture is from Bankura district of West Bengal. And Lakshmi Puja done during the season of winter. It uses a specific type of rice variety which is aromatic. So that aroma is mandatory for making this dish. And there is different type of pithe made during December, uh, during Makar Shankranti, for which again there are different type of land races. And this famous Joynagorer Mua, if there is any Bengali in this discussion, they can relate how important it is to us. So all this have the requirement of different type of land races. Next. So this is again from southern part of India. All my southern Indian friends, if there are any here, pulihora is I mean, well, like part and parcel of life here, and so many different type of pulihoras are there, which are basically type of fried rice, South Indian fried rice. There is Kolkata biryani, there is Nolen Gurer payesh. But remember, all of this requires different type of seeds, not only of rice. For Nolen Gurer payesh, there is a typical type of date palm which have to be, you have to get it only during the season of winter to get that particular type of molasses, to get that particular type of jaggery, which have interestingly the same aromatic compound with rice, which is again a case of convergent evolution. So next. So it is therefore you can see how important it is to do the land rest registration to the PPV FR Act, and I have given this in accordance to the Indian rules. Obviously, this needs to be done very carefully so that each of these land races remain properly not only conserved in field but also properly documented so that their biopiracy is not possible. So, to all my friends here, it is a deep request that please not only go for in situ conservation but also go for documentation hand by hand. So, next. So, yeah, these are the strategies for preserving indigenous seeds as we already discussed: in situ conservation in field, ex situ conservation outside their natural habitats like that Cusco Natural Park we saw, seed exchange, seed bank establishment, great community role in that, varietal registration, which we just discussed. Next. So, yeah, these are some of the seed heroes of India. Um, I personally have met Ajit Singh Babu. He is an octogenarian and still very active, uh, a farmer who have shown extreme tedious efforts to make great kitchen gardens and seed saving. I mean, he is just awesome. And then there is Mr. Shaji from Kerala who have conserved more than 200 varieties of tuber. Mr. Lalu from Haryana, who is very famous for his gourd varieties. Look at how big the gourds are. And then there is Mr. Vinod Devan, who is very famous as Banana Man of India. I have conserved 500 banana varieties. Mr. Yoganathan from Tamil Nadu have 90 plus varieties of vegetables and cereals. And obviously, there is my guide, Dr. Debol Deb. I have used his picture in the last slide. He have 1400 varieties of rice. His farm is in Odisha. If some of you are in India, do visit his farm. It is in Odisha and very close to tribal people's villages. So win-win from all ends. Next slide. So uh, ultimately, everything comes down to soil. It starts from soil, it ends in soil. And while discussing all these things, we must not forget that our soil is a living entity. Even one spoon of a healthy soil can harbor 1 billion individual microbes, and different species of fungal hyphae can be supported, can be supporting the trees we are seeing. There is an entire world beneath our feet, and we are killing it every day by intensive conventional farming practices, uh, by deforestation, by biomass burning, by conventional mechanical tillage, and excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides, which ultimately causes high rates of soil erosion and huge nutrient loss and decreased soil fertility. It must be remembered an unhealthy soil cannot produce healthy food. So the soil must be healthy, the soil must be living. Next. So I deeply mourn the passing of Dr. Elaine Ingham, who just recently passed away, and it is her immense effort towards this who have taught us about the soil food web. Um, so so she have showed that each element of soil are interconnected, nothing is isolated. And when we use so much of chemicals, when we openly burn our agro waste, we basically kill this life. We basically are left up with a dirt, nothing else. And that is why when we now go to field, we hardly see any earthworms. When we now go to field, collect soils and look it under microscope, we hardly get to see the uh, beneficial flora and fauna associated with it. So next. So this is again the typical usage of pesticide, and this man is even wearing the gadgets. Most of the time people do not wear even gadgets, nothing. They simply keep spraying it again and again without even thinking that same thing goes into their own lungs, that same thing goes into their own skin and causes not only cancer but several other diseases. And the food produced itself is toxic. So this is why it is so important to think before you eat. I keep saying this over and over, think before you eat. So, yeah, this is the reason behind it. And there is an entire train in India which are dedicated to cancer people, cancer survivors, and cancer sufferers in Punjab region of India, because it has used so much of pesticides and chemical fertilizers in its land that people there have become severely cancer affected. It is a well known fact. Anyone can check it in internet. Next. So, uh, as a company, when we get approached by people that they want any soil mix, they want any landscaping services, they want biochar, the first thing we ask for, do you have your soil test report? So there are few type of soil tests which you can very easily do at home, like this jar test, where you have to simply collect the soil samples and keep it filled with water and leave it for some time, so that ideally 24 hours, so that the layers get separated and you can identify the exact type of soil you are working with. There is a ring test. There is simple pH meter which you can use for understanding the pH of your soil, and then you can obviously go to the labs for understanding the current nutrient contents of your soil, based on which you should go for different type of soil amendments. But again, natural soil amendments, you don't have to rush to the chemical shops. Nature have given us everything. All we need is to uh, think, ponder, and connect to the right kind of people, right kind of society to get those things. Next. So here I have shown some of the practices which helps to keep our soil healthy. We must not keep the soil bare, because when we keep the soil bare, there is a tremendous chance of nutrient loss as well as soil erosion. So in between the crop cycles, there should be intercropping, there should be relay cropping, and crop rotation should be there. Obviously, based on your locality, the plants should be chosen. And you, along with all this, you should go for agroforestry approach also wherever possible, where you should plant some permanent crops which can give you food, fodder, along with other needs, like fuel wood. In some places it is still used for fuel wood purpose also, especially in rural villages. So such crops, according to your own locality, you should be able to choose and introduce in your land. Next. And these are some of the natural soil amendments. Obviously, there are so many I couldn't accommodate in one slide. There are animal manures, which is again of different types. You should be very careful to understand what kind of animal manure you are using, because trust me, not all animal manures are same. Some have very high nitrogen content, like chicken manure is very high in nitrogen content rather than cattle manures. So you should be able to differentiate and compost it properly before using it directly. Do not use it directly, compost it first. And there are municipal waste, there are industrial discharges, which can be again further treated, which must be further treated to make it into amendment. It can't be directly treated. So all of this have to be treated. Along with this comes biochar, in which we work extensively. So next slide, please. So we keep telling biochar is like a house of sponge. So this house of sponge is empty. It is made of carbon and some micronutrients depending on what kind of feedstock you have used. It looks like typical charcoal, but it is not charcoal. It has been made into much higher temperature in an oxygen-free environment, and this helps you to have your soil benefited in a manner you want. That is the biggest facility of biochar. Provided your soil is devoid of beneficial microbes, since this house is empty, you can recharge it with beneficial microbes using Jivamrut, using different type of compost tea, using biofertilizers, as well as you can recharge it with your own composted manures, vermicompost. All this uh, will ultimately be stored in this house, and when you add it to soil, it helps to break the compaction, which ultimately enhances soil aeration, which ultimately leads the roots to go to the places where they can get the nutrients properly, and a healthy plant survives in a healthy soil. So, uh, the different types of charging methods of biochar depends on the available resources in your area, obviously, provided you have some cow manures, someone have poultry manure, someone have biofertilizers, like we are using Jivamrut. So according to your own resources, your own locality, it should be chosen. uh, the different SDG goals with which biochar is well aligned is, first of all, is definitely zero hunger. Why? Because it helps to enhance the soil quality, especially like in dry regions where we are working in Telangana. Soil compaction is a huge problem. So it helps to break soil compaction when properly added. Uh, it helps to ameliorate the pH problem. In some regions of Telangana, there is huge amount of acidic soil. So use of proper uh, adjusted biochar helps to ameliorate the pH problem. It helps to bring the soil towards neutrality. So, and the use of agro waste for producing biochar ensures less open burning, which again ensures less air pollution, as well as this burning affects soil microbes. It kills microbes, it kills earthworms. So that is also ensured, which ultimately is in accordance with sustainable community, the SDG 11. It supports better plant health. So SDG 15, life on land. And the biochar work can't be done without partnerships. It is not a one person's work. It is always achieved in partnership between companies, NGOs, FPOs, and farmers, and ultimately customers who buy it. So that is how it satisfies all the SDG goals. And this is the booklet we have launched for reaching more and more people, for letting them know that these things exist. Because till now, many people don't even know the word biochar, which we have seen. So, right. So that is how we are working through Naturophilia. Uh, in 20, we just started our journey in 2022, and since then we have connected to a lot of people. But most of all, I'm very happy that coming from West Bengal, I have come to Telangana, and I have been equally loved by the farmers. That I think is my biggest achievement. That the love I have got in among the farmers of West Bengal, I have been able to get the same amount of love, if not more, from the farmers of Telangana, which I think is definitely my biggest achievement. And there are so many people who have joined us for our webinars, for our workshops, and they have come back to us for buying things, for taking advices. Uh, and that I believe have been the most biggest motivation for us to continue our work. So yeah, last. So this is my guide, Dr. Deval Deb, I told you about. And this woman standing in the middle, she is one of my farmer friend and a vermicomposting champion. She does vermicomposting very beautifully. He's a seed savior, and it has been wonderful to connect with her. And this is one of the kitchen garden we have made through Naturophilia. So I believe my time is up, and I thank you all for joining. And now the floor is open for your questions and reflections.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me this time? Great. Awesome. Wow. Thank you so much. I realize Devarati, I was like, can you speak about seeds and soil? And we're learning it's a huge topic, but I think you've really elegantly woven it together in a beautiful way that speaks to, yeah, this global community that has joined us in Learning Lab today. I would love to ask, one question, and then I'll open up the floor. So if anyone listening has any questions, please drop them in the webinar. I know we have in the chat, we have a couple of questions already, but I really wanted to talk about seeds, and especially from India, because India has been a place where there is a lot of seed activism specifically in the world. And obviously you have organizations like Navdanya, and Vandana Shiva and others kind of supporting seed banks. And could you give us a little context for those of us who are not familiar with just like, why is it that India has been really at the forefront of the conversation about seed sovereignty and, pushing against major organizations like Monsanto? In a very brief summary, could you just explain why it is that your land is that all of this is really happening, and why the world should really pay attention to what's happening with farmers and communities protecting seeds and heritage?
Because even after so many high yielding seed varieties which have been pushed uh, throughout India, we still have so many good traditional varieties left. Like with Navadanya, we have, like with my guide, Dr. Debal Dev, we have. So, through the actual proper research, it has been shown that these traditional varieties have huge benefits in terms of nutrients, in terms of yield, which is comparable to the high yielding varieties that are being released. Whereas the high yielding varieties, which are being pushed by Monsanto and other companies, often are failing to prove the claims that they are making, to prove that they are able to tolerate the extreme conditions like extreme rain, extreme drought, heat, and other things. Rather than in the same area where farmers have uh, done cultivation of some traditional varieties in some pockets of their lands, those have survived. That are making a lot of changes in their mindset. Another thing is, some seeds which have been pushed by different companies have often failed to produce seeds in the next generation. They are making the farmers dependent on the companies, that you can't save your seed. You have to buy the seed every time for every crop cycle, which is a huge pressure on smallholder farmers, because India is a country of smallholder farmers. Here many farmers don't even have 1 acre of land. So, a farmer who don't even have 1 acre of land, is it possible for them to buy seeds every year? Is it possible for them to uh, buy those inputs every year? And ultimately, use of those heavily subsidized inputs are ultimately killing their soil. So, even after putting everything in your soil, they're not getting the yields they're hoping for. There are so many incidents where onion prices have crashed and farmers have literally left tracks of onions on road. Literally, it have become 2 rupees per kg, uh, 2 rupees INR per kg, whereas the cost of cultivation was 20 rupees INR per kg. So just imagine the pathetic situations they're in. So I sincerely believe it is right of every farmer to be able to conserve their own seed. And also, for this, uh, community seed banks can pay a um, excellent um, help towards this, because that is where you can save your seeds and get the seeds back when you are in need. In fact, I have worked with an NGO called DRCSP in West Bengal, who are promoting these initiatives back when I was in West Bengal. Um, so, and the recent seed bill which has been released and which has been severely protested, it has been protested for the right reasons, because it do not accept the farmers' varieties, the importance of registration of traditional varieties, and it do not provide any clear route for the farmers to understand, if the companies are selling them bad quality seeds, how to make them, chargeable. So these are the reasons why there are so many uprisings, you can say, for seed saving, seed sovereignty in India.
Mm-hmm.
Poof, yeah. Wow. Yeah. It made international headlines for many years, and I hope they continue to, because what's happening with this is representative of the world, and it's not just there. And I feel, yeah, very inspired by the activism and the community movements that are coming from the communities you work with.
In Gujarat, company Lay's company producing chips, they filed a court case on the farmers for producing the same variety of potato, whereas that is a traditional variety. Thankfully, the farmers win in that case. But think if they couldn't file the case, because there are people who don't have the money to even file a case for themselves. So that is why this initiatives are so important. Someone asked, how did turmeric becomes blue? So it has some chemical compounds, natural chemical compounds in it, which is making it blue. And that chemical compound, I don't remember the exact names of those compounds, but uh, combined with those compounds have excellent antioxidant effect, for which that turmeric is now heavily prized and is very desirable for people like us who are saving seeds. So yeah.
Beautiful. We have a few more questions. Naila asks, I was wondering what Debarati thinks about the UN multilateral narrative of food security and why it is critical to shift it so food sovereignty instead, and why there's not sufficient conversation about this. So again, from food security to food sovereignty, why isn't that more prominently figured in conversations?
So that is really a very long conversation, to be honest.
It's a good question. Yeah.
I think again I will come back to the point I have raised during my presentation, where I have said that as a consumer we must be more aware. Most of the time we are buying things blindly. We don't even check the labels for the foods which we are buying. So as a consumer, it is well within our rights, and it is well within your own ability. If in the age of so fast internet, AI, to be able to know your right, to be able to figure out what you are actually eating. Because unless you become vocal, unless you become knowledgeable to represent yourself, your rights are never going to be represented. So that is something which is severely lacking, and that is something I think all of us who should try to pick up. Maybe once in a week, you should try to read up what are the typical seeds which were existent in your region maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and are now completely obliterated because of the big companies like Monsanto. So without having those data, without having those documents, we can never reach to food sovereignty, because ultimately for food sovereignty, we need seed sovereignty. And for seed sovereignty, the seeds should actually exist. I mean, if the seeds do not exist, then there is no point of talking about food sovereignty. So the seed must be saved at any cost first to reach from food security to food sovereignty. Otherwise, food security will be just a big piece of carbohydrates. Other than that, nothing will be there.
Hmm. I appreciate that homework assignment. After this, I'm going to start to do some research on what are the native seeds of this land here. We've got a few more questions. Bubakar from Guinea asks, is there a transition period required for seeds produced under chemical agriculture before they can be recognized as organic when cultivated in a certified organic system?
Did you understand that?
But yes, that rule varies from country to country. But ideally, there is 2 to 3 years of gap period that should be taken, ideally. But most people is not able to do that. So in that regard, in fact, biochar can help, because most of the time biochar is talked about as a soil amendment, but there are so many different types of biochar, each having its own types of properties. So there are some biochar which can help you to get rid of the pollutants which are persistent in your soil. Like heavy metal persistence is a huge problem in soil. So there are certain types of biochar which can help you to get rid of that problem in a comparatively lower amount of time. But again, I'm saying this is not a one size fits all solution. You have to get your soil tested before applying any types of biochar. So, knowing your soil, how polluted it is very important before you are planning to transition from chemical to organic. Because unless you know what the disease is, you can't cure it.
Hmm. I think for our last question, or maybe if anyone else has another question, now is the time to drop it in the chat. Anna asks, well, Anna says, very interesting, thank you. And then asks, did I get it correctly that the taste of the biodiverse crop correspondence correlates somehow with nutrient richness, at least in rice varieties?
Uh, it is not completely true, it is not completely false. In some varieties, it can be correlated. In some varieties, it is not so correlated. Uh, and there is gap in research, severe gap in research. For example, the aromatic rices I worked with, I have personal experience with, all of them have very good aroma. Some of them are high in some particular micronutrients. But if we have focused our study completely on the correlation between the micronutrients and the aromatic component of that particular varieties, then we could have got a better result for this. But that was not the focus of my PhD. But definitely, there are some varieties where the taste the chemicals which are natural chemicals present in that variety, which are uh, particularly for that the taste, is sometimes having great uh, health effects. For example, if I remember correctly, Kabuli chana, there is a variety of chickpea seed. So apparently, when that variety of chickpea seed was kind of like discovered by ancient farmers, they didn't know that it produces great dopamine surge in your brain. That has been just recently discovered 5 years ago through a research. But that is the beauty of saving those seeds, because those seeds are probabilities. Without that probabilities, you can't find out that whether there is any correlation or not. Okay. So there might be in some cases some correlation, but as I said, there is huge research gap, so it will not be a correct scientific statement to say that always there is correlation.
Hmm. Awesome. Okay, so for any young scientists out there, you have your assignment, which is identifying the links between taste and brain chemistry and heirloom varieties. It seems like there's just a massive gap in the research there. So yeah, this brings me to my last question, which Neha also asks. So Neha will kind of close us out here. Thank you for the wonderful sharing. I agree. I'd love to know how we can support your work as members of the diaspora and more broadly as members of the Learning Lab community. How can we help uplift your work and the communities that you work with?
So, for everyone, I have shared my mail address. If you want to reach out, if you want to collaborate, if you want to see us somehow working together, I don't know how exactly right now, do reach us, mail us. We have a social media presence in LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Do reach us. And I believe through conversations, many things open up. That is how it worked between me and Sophia also. She reached out. I was part of Learning Lab attendee. So she reached out and finally here I am. So conversation is the way forward, I believe. And thank you, Neha, for saying this. And I thank you all. And I again and again press this point, as a consumer, we have great choice. Do look at the food labels. Do connect with the farmers in your area. Do find out about the historical seeds and plants and trees. of your area, because you are only responsible for your own future.
Thank you so much, Dr. Devarati Chakraborty. That was awesome. Yeah, just a huge topic that you really elegantly and eloquently covered: seeds and soil and science and cultural participation in supporting our heritage, which is seeds and our ancestors' memory. I feel very, very inspired, and I know that my homework is now getting to really know the different seeds of my region. I know that I have a couple of the native American persimmons that I'm ready to be planting soon. So excited for that. So thank you for joining us. Thanks to everyone that was participating in the webinar chat. And if you would like to join us next time live for Learning Lab, be sure to subscribe for our Luma calendar, which you can find in today's show notes. And if you ever have a session on regeneration that you're curious about exploring, maybe it's kelp farming, maybe it's organic pesticides, write to community@maearth.com and we can explore different learning labs that we can create together. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time in the Learning Lab.